Karen
Got it.
Guggenheim, you damn gift to this world. Welcome to the kitchen table, girl.
Thank you so much. I just love every time I'm with you. It's like an energy boost, but in the best way because there's no down, there's
Mm,
no downside. There's no shelf life to it. It just keeps going and going and going. So thank you for that.
I feel that about you. Isn't it a gift? I look back on my journey and I was never even aware or intentional about this. The rooms you stand in matter,
Hmm.
who you stand beside. And I had connected to you through our mutual friend, Jen Fisher. And when I sat at the World Happiness Summit this year in that room, I thought to myself, dang, this is what we lose sight of in this world: heart,
Hmm.
authenticity. And I love that you built this beautiful tribe that we didn't even know we needed. Can you share with us, my girl, how this movement, how this tribe, how this community came out into the world, how it was birthed into this world?
So, it's funny because you're right. It's the rooms that we're in,
Mm,
also the rooms that we walk out of, right?
that's powerful.
So when I talk about, I choose happiness, sometimes that means walking out of that room, right? That room with the expectations that somebody gave you, that something a parent said when you were little, something a boyfriend said, a teacher, you know, a girlfriend that was supposed to be a very close friend, something you read, something you identified with. And so, I talk about my journey
Mm,
and unfortunately, my happiness journey begins with great unhappiness and shock and disappointment and pain. 11 years ago, I lost my husband suddenly
mm,
from the flu of all things, and he died very quickly. And, I don't know how, but intuitively, I knew I couldn't be in that room, the
mm,
room of widow, single mother, despair, pain, all these like labels that yes, I became a single mother, I became a widow, but that's not my identity. It's not my I
mm,
am, right? So I like blocked it, not blocked the feelings, right? That's really important. Like I knew I had to feel the pain, right? I knew the pain was coming. First there was shock. But what I did is like, I'm not going to identify with the movies I've seen and the books I've seen of what a widow is, of what like the dress in black and like, no permission for happiness and
mm,
so the things. And so, it was like, I understand completely and embrace no toxic positivity. At the same time, don't play with the wound over and over and over again. And it's hard because when you're in that room of victimhood and pityhood, you get a lot of attention. But guess
mm,
what? Happiness, killer. Agency, killer. No resilience. You are just a mat.
mm,
Okay. And for a certain amount of time, depending on what people go through, right, there's a period of victimhood, and that's fine. But then you have to make that choice of, okay, what am I going to do now?
yeah.
What cards do I have? What rooms do I want to walk into? And so my choice there was that I'm going to choose to be happy. I didn't know how. I didn't know about the science of happiness. I didn't know it was internal. I mean, I've heard all the like little phrases, and back then nobody was really talking about the science of happiness like in a global scale. So I didn't
Mhm.
really know about it. Um, and I thought it was frou-frou, right? And then I said, what can I control with this situation that is the situation? I can cry every day of my life. I can feel pity. I can feel all these things, and it'll never change. So I can control meaning and purpose. That's
Mm,
something I can actively do something about. So 4 months later, I went and I started an MBA at Georgetown, you know, because I knew I had to put myself together again so I could be of service to my kids because I wanted to be there for my kids. It was very
mm,
important for me, that commitment as a mother. Beyond
mm,
anything I am a mother. That's my I am. I am a mother. I am a friend. I am an advocate, I am a storyteller. The other things are things that I do, right?
Mm.
And so I went and I graduated and I had a really good job on paper, etc. And then because of different circumstances, I learned about the science of happiness and etc. And then in October 2016, I decided to dedicate my life to founding WAHASU, to put on the World Happiness Summit 6 months later. And in March 2017, it was like, if build it and let's see if they come.
Yeah.
And they came. People came from all over the world, experts, etc. And what we do is that we promote the science behind well-being and happiness at scale. And so we started as an event, became a community, and now it's a global movement. And so I see that as a byproduct of all these things, I became happier. I'm not happy all the time because humans are not made that way. Okay. So you can't fight biology because it doesn't work. But it's this mature understanding of happiness, right? Sustainable happiness, well-being, relationships, community. Yes, it is other-centric. It is self-centric that you have, self-care, boundaries, etc. And other-centric that what are you doing in your relationships, in your communities, in your workplaces? We are all responsible collectively for the environments in which we live in. And when we talk about the environment, also the natural environment is very important. So all of this is interrelated, and we pay attention to it, we talk about it, then we can have a vision of what is possible beyond all the darkness that is so scary at the moment. So
Girl, we are what, 5 minutes into this, and you are taking me to church right here, over here. I love how you talked about walking out of the room. And girl, that is damn difficult. Especially, and I love when you talked
scary,
about the
scary.
identity, right?
Yeah.
The identity of it. And it can feel almost paralyzing,
Mhm.
whether that's the job, the relationship, whatever facet of your life that looks like. Karen, what is your recommendation for our beautiful listener that is listening and they're like, dang, I know, if I'm honest with myself, that I have this gut whisper that I need to walk out of this room, but I don't know how. Do you have any micro tools or any recommendations of where they can start?
So first, acknowledge that it's scary.
Mhm.
Okay. And guess what? It's scary for everybody because change is difficult for people, even if it's good change. Just
Mhm.
change is hard, because you're doing like mindset shifts, new connections in your brain, even if it's like, well, and you see this in relationships. Well, I leave the toothbrush like this. Oh no, but I grew up doing it like that. And it's a small thing, right? So change is hard. So acknowledge that, acknowledge it's hard. And then oh my God, the gift of the growth through the challenge is like powerful. Super scary to step into the abyss, right? Because it's not like, well, I know exactly what's going to happen once I leave this room. It's going to be like this and that. And so you don't have the vision of what it will be. So that's super, super scary. It's like, okay, it's dark. Okay. And but then it's like, you know what? But I know I can bring a pillow because I
Mhm.
can bring that in, I can carry that. And I know I can bring, some of these flowers and then to build and associate with people who build you up. Okay. And not in the, hey, cheerleader, rah, rah. That's good sometimes, but like people that will tell you the truth
Mm.
in a loving way, but will tell you the truth. And so, and then walk away from people who like give you these daggers that you're like, gosh, this is my really good friend. But like when I finish a conversation, it doesn't feel really good.
Mm.
So you like try to see where you feel these things in your body. What is your energy telling you? So you're having a stomach ache every day you go to work or every day you meet with this person, or you're having a stomach ache when you get home. okay, your body is communicating to you at that moment. You're shutting it down, right? You're like, no, everything's fine. Everything's fine. It's something else. It's because they saw a bad news thing or they had a bad day at work or whatever. And so first is trust your gut. Find a couple of people who are going to tell you like the truth in like the best, most supportive way possible. And then understand that there is a very natural and healthy period of time where you don't know what the hell's going to happen. You feel like you're in the desert. Okay. And for me, it was important to, start the day with some reading that helped me, right? So I could reset. Every day I have to reset, Megan. Every single day I have to reset. And guess what? I don't check my phone before I do that. I don't talk to anybody before I do that. I get a cup of coffee. I get the thing. Do I wait to want to get the thing? No. Sometimes I don't want to do it. Okay. And I'm having this, I'll just check the phone because I think somebody texted me and but it's because it's for work, right? It's really for work. So again, commitment to yourself, right? So if you want to have a life that is more aligned with you, because guess what? This is not a dress rehearsal. So you get to write the story about yourself in the narrative that you tell yourself about your life, right? Is it worth putting a little bit of work, right? That you're like, okay, well, everybody has a to-do list. What about a to-be list? Today, I want to be kind. I love your hat. I want to be compassionate. I want to be a little forgiving of people's fault, like their little faults. I want to be a little forgiving, right? And so you have control over that, but that requires like awareness. And so when you start becoming aware of like, I'm freaking out, but it's natural because I just left that room, but I'm freaking out, but I'm going to be okay. And then there's a great book called Transitions that is wonderful. Tiny, tiny book. And I love it. I'm like, oh, I discovered this book. It's so wonderful. It's been around for like 40 years. Okay. And it just eases you into transitions. And it totally says, if you want to be healthy and grow out of the end, understand that the beginning starts immediately after the end. So actually that time in the desert, you already begun, right? And feeling like you don't know, or the void or the emptiness or all of that, there's like so much growth happening, right? Until one day it's like you got the whole room set up and you didn't even have to do it yourself, but you did it as a byproduct, right? You do it yourself, but what I'm saying is that you didn't go and like measure it and put the couch and do the thing. You did it by like, okay, I acknowledge that I'm feeling sad. I acknowledge I don't know what it's going to be. I'm gonna try to get these 3 things that make me feel okay. If it's exercising, if it's journaling, if it's maybe you want to go on a trip. This is another thing that if you can and you say yes. Say yes. How many times do we not say yes because of this, because of that, because of this, because of that? And then we wallow in this feeling. Sometimes it's okay to put a little band-aid and go on the trip and learn something new, because that's another thing. When you also, so movement is incredibly important for well-being, physical movement, but also mental movement. Oh, I never saw myself over here, but I kind of like it, right? Because of identity. I'm that, but I never thought I was this. But when you move, you're like, well, there's some bits here that I like that I think I want to explore more on. And that's been, look at the journey, right? As an exploration, even problems. If you can step back for a moment and be like, well, that's interesting. Well, that's really interesting, like this hurt a lot. And that's what I've had, like, whoa, that was painful. I mean, like that was so painful. It's like out of my body painful. But it's also part of being human,
Karen, I love, 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 love when you broke down these small little intentional commitments to yourself before you let the rest of the world in.
Yep.
Because God, that is so powerful. And I think as humans, we are jacked up in thinking that it truly is some of the simplest things that have this huge impact in our life. And I know with me, I've been letting that phone creep in more and more and more in this optimization of every second. Like, I'll just respond to this quick, I'll just do this quick, and how it really fucks me up mentally. Kieran, when you had talked about 11 years ago and that moment in knowing that you had to leave that room and walk out of that room and that you didn't want to wallow in that space, you had said something so powerful about, there was this intuition inside of me that knew that I had to move, I had to make these strides, even though I did not feel it.
No.
Looking back on your journey, would you say that you always had this sort of connection to your intuition, that you always had these intentional practices that helped move you through it? Or do you feel that that was sort of the catalyst to connect with yourself?
So intuition I've always had.
Mm.
Intuition I've always had that had the opportunity to be sharpened because I had a challenging childhood. So those of us who've had a challenging childhood in a challenging place, I was born in Nicaragua, okay, so that's a challenging place as it is. You start to like read the room, right? The atmosphere. And so I had that sense and intuition. And then I think I have, I don't know, a gift of courage, maybe.
Mm.
And so, and also a complete commitment not to be a cliche, because I couldn't stand myself as a cliche. So that was something that I was committed. I didn't want to be something that I wasn't okay with being. And so something sappy or sorry or, oh, how are you? And you're a young widow and like, bleh. No,
Uh,
no, thank you. Okay. And so, and I'm happy to talk about the experience and help people, right? But that's not who I am, the
mm.
totality of who, in the same way that, you know, my husband died, but he lived and he lived. So I focus on the part he lived. Both are true. Okay. But what happens in the when we live in the disappointment or the divorce or the loss, or it's like we go, oh, again and again and again. But you know what? Maybe you did great things in your career that for always will be with you, right? The career's over. Maybe you were fired. Maybe the company went under, whatever. But what you did lives on forever in you
Mm.
and in the impact that you had on other people, right? And bitterness stops you from seeing that because it constricts, right? Happiness, well-being, forgiveness, joy is expansive. And so
Mm.
you are able to, you pan out, right? And zoom out, and you're able to be like, oh, these other things are here in my life. And so I was not optimist at all. So I think I would say I was quite negative. Um, but I have always been into the challenge. Oh, you say I can't do this? Oh, I'm going to do this. And so I had that conversation with myself. Oh, you think you're gonna? No, no, no. You made a commitment that you said you were gonna be happy. So you better go figure out what that even means, right? But you committed to that. And I think that's something that is really important. And you know, maybe even for our younger people, commitment's okay. You know, commitment is good, especially when you're committed to yourself.
Oh,
Okay.
God, yeah.
Commit to yourself. Like, you know what? Yeah, I like, what character do you want to have? Like, what's my character for me, right? And so we live in a world, you mentioned the phone and like social media and all this stuff. It's, you know, oh, I want people to see how cool I am, what I'm doing, or that I'm really having a great time. And I'm like, go to the most fabulous parties and look at all the people that I meet, etc. But like, go inside. Like, what's your like Instagram inside you? What does that
Mm.
look like? Right? Right? It's like, is that matching the outside Instagram?
God, that's powerful. That we should put that shit on a bumper
Right? I
sticker.
just
What's
thought
the
about it.
Instagram inside you?
Exactly. What does that story look like? Hey, it could look, a little bit dark in there, and I know. So I really like tried, and I'm not successful all the time because I'm a human being, right?
Mm-hmm.
But even that, even if you're like 1%, it's such an impact to you. And then the beautiful thing is that it just like ripples out to other people and other things,
Oh God, it does.
you know?
You had said, Karen, and I love this, the gift of curiosity. I don't think we give her enough street cred because she doesn't ask for a lot. It's just this little voice on your shoulder that says, "Hey, look at me." And when you had said, I had this gift of courage and I also made this commitment to myself and I was bound and determined and hell bent to figure out what does happiness mean to
Yeah,
me.
yeah.
In this moment, my friend, what does happiness mean to you?
I love that you highlighted curiosity. Before I answer you, let me tell you that is extremely important. Extremely, extremely important. Because remember that if I ask you like about an argument that you think you're gonna have with a friend or something, that you will be like, well, you will describe it to the T. But if it's like something good that could happen, it's like, well, I don't know where that, I don't know, I really don't know how that's going to happen. So being curious about good things happening in your life as well, and descriptive, and using your traits of like curiosity, creativity, super impactful. Um, but looking at the question of happiness, and I've been thinking, obviously I think about this a lot.
Yeah.
For me, happiness really is about other people. It's about other people. It's about other people.
Mm.
Your relationship with other people, your impact to other people, because it's like what you blow, it's what you blow in the wind that immediately comes back to you. It's like immediately goes back to you. You know, you may try to avoid it. You may have whatever mechanisms you're trying to implement, but the feeling of belonging, of being okay, of wanting to be better, wanting to do, wanting to create. If I remove people out of it, there's nothing.
Mm.
There's absolutely nothing. So for me, the core of happiness, and that's what the research shows, that from the Harvard study that is over 80 years old, that the greatest impact on how happy we are is the nature of our relationships. So positive relationships impact our happiness more than anything. You know, we swim in an ocean of people, of relationships. So it is the essence of happiness. Now, having said that, there are elements of it. So, there's physical well-being, there is financial well-being, career purpose in life, career purpose, being in the moment, incredibly important. So all these other things impact how happy you are, right? But
Mm.
at the core, happiness, I think, is really, really interrelated with people, with purpose,
Mm.
right? With purpose, and with being fully present, and
Mm.
having the ability not to mind travel to the back, to the past, or to the future. But it really is about connection and about experiencing also. So it's very important, to experience happiness. And that sounds silly, but what happens is that we have a lot of ideas, right? And knowledge, right? And also expectations. So future, like when I get the car, when I get that car, that house, that spouse, blah, blah,
Mm.
blah, then that weight,
Mhm.
right? That
Mhm.
hair day,
Mhm.
right? And what happens is that then it's all conceptually happy, right? So you actually have to experience it. And for you to experience it, you're going to have to be vulnerable and put your tippy toe and try, a relationship. So not only romantic, but a relationship with whoever it is, a family member, a colleague, a friend, the person gives you your coffee, a smile, a kind act, something like that. And then also have a life filled with meaning and purpose. So meaning has different elements. It's about coherence, it's about significance and purpose. So things have to make sense in our lives, right? They have to kind of fit together, and there needs to be significance, meaning that that's kind of like where the relationship comes into play. You need to matter to other people, and other people need to matter to you. And then, of course, purpose has to do with our goals, right? And where are we going? And so purpose is, and meaning is the part where it's like, well, going to that kids play, is that gonna make me happy? No, because it's horribly boring. Or that graduation for 4 hours where you're just like, can somebody just, beam me out of here? But then you feel great that you were there,
Mm,
because you were able to be in that moment, share in that moment, build on that person's experience, gives you an opportunity for generosity, right? To give
mm-hmm.
that to somebody else, which meant a lot to you, to them, right? They'll remember that moment, maybe forever, that you were there. And so that builds relationship. And so that will also have the fruit of greater happiness later. But in the moment, it's not like, rah, rah, fantastic, I'm here, right?
I love that you bring this up, and I love that you talk about vulnerability. We love to put a hashtag around that shit. Vulnerability is strength, like it's easy, but it is damn hard. And Karen, as you were talking about happiness being people and the power of the relationships and being intentional and creating that and showing up vulnerably, I had this whole moment. I was like, for 15 years, when I was in this corporate career, fast tracking my way to air quote happiness by getting the corner office title, Karen, I worked alongside people every damn day, and I never knew them because
Yeah.
I never took a beat or a moment to show up as human myself because I was so into the task list and I was so into just getting it done. And it wasn't until I took a beat after I had to have a breakdown did I realize that when I just started to take a moment to ask someone, "Hey, how are your kids? Hey, how's your dog?" Like a micro moment question, did things be actually become more fun? Do you feel that in your relationships and the people that you surround yourself with and have continued to surround yourself with as you grow this global movement, that your relationships have changed because had more courage to be vulnerable?
Yes, and I want to say something about vulnerability, that
Yes,
it, because
please.
you mentioned the hashtag, it's authentic vulnerability. Okay, that's not me vomiting on you. I just met you, and we're gonna talk about my childhood, right?
Mm.
And I think that's really important, because that's out of context, particularly like in the workplace. Like that's not what we're talking about. That means, and I'll bring it to the workplace. That means, like, perhaps you did ask about, my children, and then I asked you about, as we were getting coffee, about your weekend, and then you went to a place, and I said, oh, I like that, I went there too. Next time I see you, maybe, oh yeah, next weekend let's go together. And then naturally you form a relationship where then maybe you are have the opportunity to become vulnerable with each other, right? It's not forced vulnerability. Like day one, you in onboarding, we're all going to get together and everybody's going to talk about their deepest, darkest secret in a group of people you never met. But they're doing that. Okay. So of
Yeah.
course that's going to backfire. Of course. Of course. Because there's no like context, understanding of, so that is something I think is really, really important. And then I think that also vulnerability has what do you call it? Gradients, maybe like intensity levels. So I could be vulnerable and say, I really don't know what I'm gonna ask for, or I don't really know about the outcome of this. I think it's gonna be great, but I'm not really sure.
Mm.
So that's where I think we need to have the context and environment at work where you can be vulnerable in that way. Like, okay, let's try to figure this out together, not 100% sure, let's, so that kind of vulnerability. Or, I'm late because just had I had to be in a teacher meeting with my kid, and it's the fourth time, and or something like that, on those lines, right? And that we're safe to do that. And then the other thing that I think is really important is, about humanity at work, right?
Mm.
So like, when in your in your human beings, we just talked about, really need people because
Mm.
that's human beings are made, right? That's biologically the way it is. So when you start fighting biology, you get into a bad place. So guess what? Human beings who go to work in an office or not in an office, but who work together in a company or wherever are going to naturally crave relationships.
Mhm.
Okay?
Mhm.
Because they're human.
Mhm.
So if you go into a work environment and context, and the way that we work is all about performance defined as productivity in the moment, of course you're not going to go and say hi to somebody because you're going to think, well, that's, I got to produce because I want to, I want to make my quota, or I want to get the title, etc. So it's really important to understand that human beings will want to connect at work because they want to connect everywhere. We want to connect everywhere. That's how we're made. And so if we understand as leaders that this is going to naturally happen at work, then we can redefine a little bit, fine tune the way we work. And
Mm.
that doesn't mean that we're now like in circle time together and like, all these other like constrained or prescribed, connection, but that I have a moment perhaps, and that it is important that I had a coffee with you, or that there's the understanding of these shared moments and how important they are, and that we allow time and space for these things to happen. If we are over demanding for productivity from our workforce, they will not have the time, not for relationships at work and not for relationships outside of work. What does that mean? It's destabilizing.
Mm.
So you're going to have less productivity at the end because the person most likely will disengage, leave, burn out, sabotage, quiet quit, whatever you want to call it,
Yeah.
but it's because they did not have the time to be human.
You know what I love so much about what you beautifully articulated there is that this doesn't need to be so damn prescriptive. We don't need to create, right? Like, I love how you just said, listen, we can build these trust in these damn micro moments if you give space in this optimization of every second world to let it happen
Exactly.
around the coffee maker. I love that. We overcomplicate it, don't we?
We totally do. And I think that's why the co-working spaces are like, I go into a co-working space and I'm like, this is so much fun. This is so cool. It's like the little area and they make it pretty, and you have maybe the quotes on the wall,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're inspirational. And so that's like, oh, this is kind of fun. And maybe I can say to you, hey, did you see the new quote, or did you see this? And it just takes a little moment of like tapping into like, I'm human, or I am more than my title. So
Mm.
I think that, or my role. And so I think that that's where leaders can help us. What about looking at the landscape of the company? So if you want your employees to want to come to work more, make it more fun. And that
Mm.
doesn't mean like a ping pong table. It doesn't. Okay, so it's like, that's not what it is. That's like, because if you say that, make it more fun, oh, work, what do you do? The ping pong table? No, but perhaps, and ask the employees. So like, for example, tea, like this, like people love tea. So maybe have like a little tea area, with like teas that are really great. Or if it's something, maybe the lighting is really awful. Like there is something to be said about bad lighting and humans.
Yeah.
Okay. So they're not going to naturally want to go there. And you're asking them to have a peak performance
Mm.
in settings that are not naturally catering to humans' peak performances.
I love how you said, hey, why don't you ask
Yeah.
what your people want? Don't we make up shit all day long? We
Yeah.
assume shit. Ah, that won't work. They don't want that. Did you
They
ask?
want this. Yeah, did you ask? Like children, it's like, no, we're like actually adults. Like you can ask me. I like ping pong is great, but like I can go to ping pong somewhere. Like I'd love to have. I'm just thinking about this with you, like a little corner and a cute little lamp, and that's where I can work. And like, and maybe this is a space where people who are in breaks go there to talk about anything. Not again, the vulnerability bit where like I'm going to talk about, what happened in my life or therapy session, because that is important, but not what I'm saying here in this particular moment. But maybe I will ask you about your weekend, or maybe I will talk to you about a challenge that I'm having at work and have you ever solved that? But I know we're not on the same team, but have you ever, I'm new. Do you know how to navigate this? So like opportunities there for mentorship and like, how do you navigate this? So it's more of it's also work, but it's in a different way
Mm,
that is allowing you to make these natural connections that we want to force people into, right?
yeah.
Just feel like you can ask people. And I think that, you're looking at the research coming out that, a lot of the several research studies. So one is like the interventions aren't working. Okay, but did we see if the environment was toxic? Did anybody ask that question? Because I don't care what intervention you're going to put in there. If the environment is toxic, it won't work.
Mhm.
Like, for example, after Chernobyl, that environment was toxic. Therefore, if you put the most beautiful house there, not going to work, right?
Yeah.
So we need to have that kind of like common sense. And then the other bit is, um, are you giving people what they want? So the
Mm,
worst thing is like you're giving me another app or you're solving a problem for me. I have 14 apps, right?
yeah.
So now it's like I have 15 apps, but what I really want is a little flexibility of getting in 15 minutes late or 20 minutes late on Wednesdays, which is my day to take the kid to school. I don't know.
Love that. God, that's that right there. Listen, that shit needs to be on a bumper sticker. Did you ask? I love that. Karen, I want to talk about your beautiful new baby that is coming out into the world, your book on cultivating happiness, on overcoming
Yes,
trauma, on
yes.
positively transforming your life. Girl, talk to us about this brainchild, your latest child out into the world.
So, people ask me about my journey and
Mm,
they want to know how I did what I did, et cetera, et cetera. And so for me to be able to really explain the growth, I have to touch the pain, right?
mm,
And so I told you that you have to stop playing with the with the scar
mm,
so you allow it to heal. And so for me, I wrote the book so that it's very personal, right? And so that you can see how I did it, but also it's anybody can put it in. There's nothing especially unique about me. I just decided to do it. That's all. And you don't have to like build a movement or build a business. Yeah, right. You just have to be committed to like, do I want to feel better in my life or not?
mm,
Like yes or no. So people, it's not to like um convince people either. And that's not any of the work that I do. Like I would so love it if you did it. Like it would be super cool. But at the end of the day, your happiness is your business. So you decide to do it or not. And so with the book, I have these learnings that I've had from the different experts that have had the opportunity to have deep meaningful conversations with and learn, and then my experiences, and my hope is that other people can apply it to their lives in whichever challenges they're facing. And
mm,
what is traumatic to one person is not to the other, so nobody's a judge on that. And I'm very proud. It came out first in Italian and then in English. It's in the UK now, and in the US it'll be in October, and in Spanish in June. So I think people really want to have this, hope of the things that you can do. So, people, hope is not a strategy, but it kind of is, because if you
mhm.
understand, if you take the time to educate yourself on hope, it's like goal setting. It's not like, well, whatever, let's see how it goes, right? You're going to do something. Hope involves action. So, these are things that you can commit to, that you can learn, that you can pass on, that you can cultivate. I chose that word because I feel like, I see it like a field, right? We have this field, which is our lives. It's not the entire, farm, but you got a field. That's the
Mm-hmm.
piece you have. And so how do you want that piece to look like, right? It needs water, it needs sunlight, it needs seeds. You got to take the weeds out or not.
Mm-hmm.
And so the outcome after some time, it will be very different. And even if it's a little water each day, right? It will come to fruition. It will blossom, but you have to do it every day, right?
I
And
think
so the book is about that.
I think one of the best gifts that you can give this world is sharing your lessons. What trauma, what pain, what growth, all of it has taught you, and the fact that you've had the courage, girl, this gift of courage and this gift of vulnerability to put your words out in the world and say, hey, this isn't about me. This is about sharing the lessons I've learned and take what feels right and use it for what feels right is a damn gift. Thank you, my friend. And where can we stay connected with you? Where can we pre order this book if we're in the US? Can you share that with us?
Yes, so it's on Amazon, so you can look at it on Amazon. You can follow at Wahasu, so you get more information about the World Happiness Summit and get on our wait list for Summit 2025. We're very, very excited and announcing very soon on that. And I'm at Karen Guggenheim. If you want to follow me on social media, I'm not very prolific because I don't love social media, but I do post time to time, and I'm more about really authentic in-person connections.
Mm,
I just really like to be with people. So
mm. It shows,
thank
girl, being in that room in Owasu with you in London this year, it was palpable. It was palpable. And I remember it like it was yesterday. And that's one of the many gifts that you give this world. Gang, I'm going to link all of this in the show notes so you can follow Karen in this beautiful global movement that she's leading with some heart centered humans where you can dig into the book, where you can stay connected with her. Karen, thank you for making the time to sit at this table. You are the best kind of soul food.
Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it, and I appreciate you. And I also want to say that we have the content for free on our YouTube channel. So that's very important. We have
Mm,
past summits on that, and you were there. The content is spectacular. These experts who dedicate their lives to this is really, really amazing, and such a privilege for me to be able to promote their work. And so thank you so much for allowing me to ripple through you.
mm.
Thank you.